even more companies are dumping Pride. Disney not supporting it at all at their theme parks, outside of a few little murals that are hard to find. And now places like USA Today, their writers are saying it's painful, it's bizarre. And yet, we can tell you why, folks, today. Pride is hiding and corporations are diving out of its path. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gather near as we explain the latest phenoms, what's happening across your world, and often giving the drive-by journalist the headlines of tomorrow, served up on a platter right now today. As we dive in, click the like button. We'll tell you why Pride went away. There's a couple of reasons. Some might be shocking to hear. Folks, as I have walked around over the last few days, the Walt Disney World Resort, I have noticed something has changed. You see, in the past Junes, as I perused my way around the parks, I would find all kinds of merchandise. I would find all kinds of rainbow insignia and, cakes and cupcakes and cookies and everything you can imagine. And it's all gone this June. It's all gone. I mean, really and truly, there are 4 murals in the Disney parks, and they are literally on the doors that cast members use to exit the parks. So you got to go way out of your way to find these things. At Animal Kingdom, for example, it's on an exit door to a backstage area. At Hollywood Studios, it's like hidden between a construction site and Star Tours. Why do I bring this up, folks? Because I'm about to go now to USA Today. But I want you to understand that it's everywhere. And it's the staunchest defenders of Pride that have declined to participate this time. Sarah Pequeño is writing this one for USA Today. We knew corporations would abandon Pride. It still hurts. The brands that are backing away from Pride Month are doing exactly what we knew they would do all along. Support LGBTQ plus people only as long as it was profitable. Here's what I'm going to say back to that, okay? And I'm going to be very gentle. People are expecting me to jump all over this, and I'm going to be gentle, okay, this time. If Christmas was unprofitable, they would happily drop Christmas.
100%.
This is just the nature of what companies do and what they are, okay? It says, at the start of June, I stopped by Le Target, they say, while running errands in the Soho neighborhood of New York. The store had just set out its summer merchandise, displaying an array of clothes, accessories, and sunscreens nestled within a series of red arches. As I hurried past tank tops and patterned shorts towards the pet section, I stopped to look at the Pride collection. There wasn't much. A single display of generic rainbow-colored shirts and home goods rested towards the back of the store with no signs declaring June to be Pride Month. I realized at that moment that in spite of the fact that I live in New York City, and in spite of the fact that I am part of the alphabet community, I hadn't seen many corporate advertisements related to this year's celebration. I think I know why. It seems that the era of rainbow capitalism that has endured since, back in the 60s, had made same-sex marriage law land in 2015 is no longer a guaranteed moneymaker for brands, leading them to downsize their efforts or abandon them altogether. It's the continuation of a troubling trend that began in 2024 with the re-election of President Donald Trump. But as we've showed you on the channel, folks, this Pride decline happened the year before Trump came into office. So it precedes the orange Godzilla returning back to the White House. As conservatism rears its head across the country and corporations ditch diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, there is suddenly no incentive to support the alphabet community. And the author says, I hate to say it, but we told you this would happen. Now, I'm going to tell you a little deeper part of why this is happening. And panel, I can't wait to hear your thoughts on it. The reason that you're seeing Pride completely disappear from entertainment, but also from merchandise, Disney parks, it's gone. The reason is because the merch never sold. I mean, it kind of did. There was a time when it was, maybe a couple of years it was a fad, but it really never sold. In fact, all this stuff would then go to these secondhand suppliers and resellers and Ollie's and, Five Below and Dollar Store. At Disney, they would put out huge, massive displays of Pride stuff, and then it would end up at cast collections, or it would end up in flea markets in Florida. But Andy, where the money was made was that these companies, they would instill this into their DEI and ESG scores. And then they were rewarded by these huge funds, these huge hedge funds that would invest in them based on their ESG and DEI stuff. And that all came from these mega millionaires and billionaires, not trillionaires, but billionaires, like Soros and the others. And we don't want to go too deep into that. But Andy, as soon as the the racket was gone. This was a loser money wise all along, and so they dropped it. I think they wanted this to be like Christmas again in June, but that never came. And they don't care about the virtue; they just care about the money. And so, I'm not shocked by any of this, Andy. I may be shocked how quickly it happened. I think that is a little surprising.
I think this comes down to the general public gave you this group exactly what they asked for. Like they wanted this, and then it turned out it wasn't enough. And it's like, and give me some more, give me some more. And then you started to get some of the bad actors that had hitched their wagons to those letters, and the abbreviation just kept getting longer and longer and longer. And now you've gotten people to a point, especially the young people now, who have the least tolerant views in decades, because it's like, yeah, we've already been there, we've done that, and we've given you everything, and it's still not enough. So guess what? We're finished with this. And it's ironically, I was an art major in college, so a lot of friends that I had were in this community, and most of them just wanted to be treated like everybody else. Well, good. Now you're being treated like everybody else. You're not special. Everyone has the same things. We all go home and we look for somebody to share our lives with. Maybe we have somebody. I don't want to, when I'm shopping at Walmart at 9:00 at night and I see an older couple, maybe my age or whatever, walking around with their shopping cart, and I look in there and there's a drop cloth, some duct tape and whipped cream, I don't want to think about what they're doing with it. It's like, and for some people to say like, oh, like you have to look at this as we're making this parade, and you have to see this thing that has nothing to do with just your baseline idea of two people love each other. It's morphed into something, and now people don't want to see it. It's become a detriment. And once it starts hitting your bottom line, it's one thing when corporations are making so much money that, yeah, they can throw some cash over here. And then when you start really promoting, when you go Bud Light and you do all these things, people start to see, you know what, I don't want to be associated with that. I don't want to, because now you're not just conjuring up an image. Most people, I believe, want to be fair. They want fairness. They don't want somebody to be treated like having less opportunity, rights, advantage, whatever. But don't go putting yourself above everyone else like that. You have to, I don't want people going like you have to adopt my lifestyle. I exercise on a regular basis. I don't go around saying to people wagging my finger at them. If you don't do this, you're not like, people don't like that. And that's what happened to it. Now I think I'd like to see people just be treated like people. Like nobody should have a special day of anything. Honor your veterans, honor your parents. And beyond that, everybody stop doing the weeks and the days of everybody, with their own special day. You're not special. You're just like everybody else, and you should deal with that.
Yeah. 100%. One of the things we've seen is that these companies have just completely dropped it, but also celebrities, Nick. There's very little coming. I mean, maybe like a Billie Eilish, will post something, but most of the celebrities have been completely silent on Pride Month, and that's really different as well. And as we've thought out loud on the channel in the past, that may be due to what Andy's saying. The young people, they kind of view this whole thing as old fogies. This is what the older generation does as Pride Month, and they're disinclined, I think, to participate in it. And that means the merch is drying up because 50 and 60-year-olds going to Target are not going to support it like 15-year-olds would, and 15-year-olds aren't buying it.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys remember when we had ex-Disney, high-up Disney employee on our channel that was talking about the whole. So he was actually gay, and we had a conversation with him where he was saying, I don't want a Pride Month. And a lot of gay people don't want Pride Months, just like Morgan Freeman doesn't want, Black History Month. But, I think the shift, I think this is also a good possibility. I think the shift from the public marketing phase with a lot of these companies has gone to more internal programs. So companies have pretty much reduced Pride themed advertising and all that sort of stuff, well, they are still continuing all that behind the scenes, within the company itself. And like Andy was saying, it's just not lucrative to a lot of them. I mean, you guys remember when Target during Pride Month had all the stuff
the
out
underwear,
on
the underwear and the swimwear. That's what nuked
for
a lot of
kids and
this.
stuff. Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
let's talk about that for a minute, though, Nick, because it's the plus sign that I think sunk this in entertainment and in merchandise. So, for example, the lady who was at Disney in the leaked videos that Christopher Rufo put out a couple of years ago. So one of the executives said that both of her kids identified in a way that would land in that plus sign on the like both of her kids. And neither one of them was, nearing adulthood. And I think that's when people said, "Oh, come on, this is enough of it," right? When you started having people who were like, "Well, my kid identifies as a squirrel," and we're like, "Is this real?" Oh, it is real. They've got the little tail in the back, and like that's when people had enough, and that's what destroyed this whole thing. And I'm not going to give my thoughts on morality or ethics of any of this stuff. I always hold that back, and I think we've been one of the fairest channels out there in terms of covering this authentically and accurately. But Nick, it's the plus sign where things got completely crazy and degenerate and all this weirdness, just exploded.
Yeah. I mean, it used to just be LG. It just used to be LGB, now it's LGBT. Then they had the Q, then they had the plus, it's like, if you keep giving these people like an inch, they will continue to take miles and miles, and just try to normalize this. And in my personal opinion, it's just not normal.
Yeah. So Lauren, if we look at the effect on entertainment, Microsoft, nothing. I mean, Halo, they're crazy though. Disney, nothing. Star Wars, nothing. Lucasfilm, nothing. Marvel, nothing.
Bungie,
Universal put out a single tweet. Bungie, nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Lauren, all of these companies that were completely all in on it, it just went away. It's like the Grinch that stole Christmas. The Grinch, but it was not the orange Grinch. Okay, it's not the orange Grinch. It's the market. This was always lifted up by how do I want to put this? This was a very weird Wall Street push. Maybe WEF, maybe we should say that. Maybe that's where the push was coming from. What do you think about it, Lauren?
So I got a few things to say about it. And where I would start is it's not just that the companies that were pushing this weren't making the profits that they expected, so they dropped it. It was actually cutting into their profits because it was alienating their non-lesbian, gay, bi, transsexual, intersex, asexual, whatever identity you want to have, non-customers away. So they were then losing money. It was a losing proposition for them.
Lauren, because you brought up something really important when you said asexual.
Mm-hmm.
People who are asexual, in other words, they're just not attracted. They just don't want to have a relationship, right?
Yep.
They were listed in this giant acronym. And people who are like, you know what, I'm not in a relationship right now and I'm not interested in a relationship, but I don't want to be lumped in with a movement with people who think they're ponies and are out riding bicycles unclothed.
This kind of comes into my next point, which is that I don't care what your orientation is. I'm not going to judge you as an individual based on that. I have friends that fall into these categories. Yep. I personally don't care what you're doing in your time.
And we're all God's baby. So you know what? I'm not here to be mean to anybody.
But when you're acting as a collective and applying pressure, I don't think this has anything to do with virtue. It's not about virtue. It's about power. And that's what we were talking about earlier. You had an ability to apply leverage to these companies to get special recognition. And that gives you a feeling of power. What you're feeling now, that you are not getting that special recognition, that you're not able to apply these forces upon a third party and get them to bend to your will, is disappointment that you have lost your power. That's not a virtue. That is a desire to dominate. And I would say the closest thing that you can apply this to in a non-sexual realm is you are forcing people who are not of your community to participate in a ritual that is designed to make you feel as though you're virtuous. The nearest thing that I can think of that you would apply that to is a team building exercise at work. The mandatory fun that Steve Carell is talking about in that clip in your intro. Nobody enjoys doing this thing unless you genuinely are close with your coworkers. But when you are forced to do this outside of company hours to spend time with people you don't necessarily want to spend time with, and you can't just go home at the end of the day, that builds resentment. If you're looking for some external force to validate you, that's a you problem. That's not a me problem. That means you need to work on yourself to figure out why you feel inadequate and deal with that. Be happy with yourself. Don't look for that from some form of external validation, because that only leads to a path of ruin.
Here's the other thing, guys, and those are great points, Lauren. I said the plus thing was part of this, but that's not all, and I realized it. It was also going after kids. That's where the line got crossed to, and especially when this movement became associated with the idea that kids as young as like 5 years old were going to make irreversible decisions, or doctors and parents were going to make irreversible, highly lucrative decisions, but maybe not in the best interest, probably not in the best interest, almost certainly not in the best interest of the child, at a time when the child, has to be told, go brush your teeth. I don't care if you don't want to brush your teeth will rot out of your head. Oh, you want to make an irreversible, anatomical decision? Okay, well, suddenly you're an expert on that. No. And I think that also, it brought the full-blown collapse. And I think maybe young people, if we're trying to figure out why did young people stop? Because it's the market, right? If the market wanted this, the companies would be making it. That's what's missing here. If the market wanted it, companies would make it, because the companies want to make money from the market. I think what collapsed it, maybe even amongst young people, was the idea that, hey, they're irreversibly changing us. Wait a minute. Why are we the generation that is going through this? So I don't, guys, whoever wants it, take at it with that last one, and we'll wrap up there. What do you guys think about it?
I think when you're looking at making money, you have to go to the thing is going to sell, and the thing is going to sell is like there's some controversy. It's been around for years about like certain varieties of Barbie dolls, and they don't all sell equally. And it's, people are objecting, well, why are these ones on clearance? Well, there's certain people in certain communities that don't necessarily buy those kinds of toys. But if you don't have them available, then that's another issue. But you have to do what the market says. You have to. It's like why Star Wars figures only sell in the classic trilogies. They don't, and the prequel trilogies. You have to put out there what the market's going to buy, and that's why you'll see certain popular colors of automobiles go out there, and over they use those same colors because they sell. And every once in a while, somebody comes out with turtle puke green, and it sits on the dealership. Like 2 or 3 people buy them, and the rest of them get repainted or go back. The market should decide these things, and not guys like Larry Fink that say we should engineer society. Mao tried that, and under the force of tyranny, and couldn't actually make it happen. So why does he think that that's going to happen just because it's cash?
Listen, I'm with you, Andy, and we will, we'll keep an eye on this, folks. I think we've been the fairest channel out there in terms of covering this empathetically and objectively, accurately, etc. A lot of people don't like that we're covering this, but conversely, a lot of people say, I'm glad you're shining a light on the companies. Because frankly, folks, we just want them all to be, we want them to be all consistent. And once they're consistent, you understand why they're being what they're being, and the consistency that they are doing, folks. That's causing so many who support Pride to be losing is they're consistently looking for money. And the money on Pride dried up. Well, you've made it to the end of the video, and that means you are a true pal of Pro. Thank you so much for watching the entire thing, ladies and gentlemen. And we ask that you consider clicking that like button. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. And remember, folks, we've got more content yet on the way. The drive-bys can't handle what we have to say, but we never stop, not for a minute, because we want to win it for you. Until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.